So hello again guys, and welcome to this edition of AI Governance Engineering with myself Gavin, and we're going to look at how ISO 6254 stitches together ISO 42001, 42005 and 5338. Over the next 20 minutes or so, we'll connect explainability requirements to governance, impact and lifecycle controls so that every assurance artifact lines up. So here's the reality. ISO 6254 tells us how to deliver explainability. ISO 42001 defines the management system. ISO 42005 governs impact assessments. And ISO 5338 runs the life cycle. The pain happens when teams treat them independently. So today we're going to show you how they interlock without overlap or gaps. So by the end, you'll see how ISO 6254 stakeholder objectives accelerate ISO 42001 clause 4.2, how explainability feeds ISO 42005 impact evidence, how clause 7 maps across all 8 ISO 5338 stages, and how to operate a unified integration framework you can use tomorrow. So think of ISO 6254 as the explainability playbook, ISO 42001 as the aims backbone, ISO 42005 as the impact methodology, and ISO 5338 as the lifecycle discipline. Together they ask how, what, impact and when. ISO 6254 is a relatively new standard, and it catalogues 11 stakeholder types, maps explainability across the lifecycle, and provides an implementation taxonomy. Anytime someone says, "Make this AI explainable," this is the clause that you reach for. ISO 42001 gives you the governance muscle. Clause 4.2 demands you understand stakeholder needs. Clause 8 drives operation and monitoring, and everything must be documented. It's similar to ISO 27001, but fine-tuned for AI. ISO 42005 guides you through AI system impact assessments. It expects you to identify impacted parties, assess harms and benefits, and document mitigations. Explainability shows up both as a mitigating control and as a risk when it's missing. ISO 5338 extends the lifecycle processes for AI. It names 8 stages from inception through retirement, plus AI-specific processes like data engineering and continuous validation. We'll plug explainability into each of those stages shortly. Each standard answers a different question. ISO 6254 is the technical how. It gives you explainability methods and evidence. ISO 42001 is the management system, governance and controls. ISO 42005 is the impact methodology, evidence of benefits and harms. And ISO 5338 is the lifecycle discipline, stage gates and cadence. Without deliberate mapping, you either duplicate work or leave blind spots. So we're going to use ISO 6254 as kind of like the Rosetta Stone that binds governance, impact and lifecycle data together. There are 3 primary mappings to master: ISO 6254 stakeholders to ISO 42001 needs, ISO 6254 explainability capability to ISO 42005 evidence, and ISO 6254 lifecycle activities to ISO 5338 stage checkpoints. Everything else kind of hangs off those bridges. So you should start every workshop with ISO 6254's stakeholder table, AI users, subjects, auditors, regulators, and more. Turn each explainability objective into a documented stakeholder need on the ISO 42001 side. That list becomes your inventory for clause 4.2. The heat map on screen shows priority levels in the darker cells, which means higher priority, and each cell label tells you the specific explainability action that group needs, whether it's clarity for users, appeals for subjects, testing for auditors, or evidence for regulators. ISO 42001 demands transparency, but doesn't quite describe how. ISO 6254 clause 9 is the menu interpretable components, post-hoc techniques, architecture-driven methods, empirical validation, document the methods, quality metrics, and the owners in the aims. So when you run an ISO 42005 assessment, treat explainability as a system feature, map each stakeholder objective to an impact entry, then describe the benefit when it exists and the potential harm when it does not. The bar chart shows the delta for each stakeholder group. Higher scores mean stronger effects on trust and oversight, and notice how AI subjects and regulators face the highest risk without explainability, while AI users gain the most benefit when it's present. Use the timeline as a rhythm chart. At inception, run both the explainability needs analysis and the initial impact assessment. During design, update both. Before deployment, evaluate explainability quality while finalizing the assessment. And in operation, monitor explainability drift alongside scheduled impact reviews. Treat explainability as a through line. Clause 7 spells out activities for each stage. Don't just try and bolt it on at the end. Align owners, artifacts, and evidence to the lifecycle tasks in ISO 5338. During inception, decide if explainability is needed, which stakeholders care, and what properties matter. Latency, fidelity, presentation, and capture those requirements before any model work begins. Design time means 2 threads. Build the explainability capability itself and use explainability insights to improve the AI. Pick methods, wire them into the pipeline, and let the insights drive model upgrades. So now it's time to evaluate the explainability capability. Just like you would the AI system, check alignment to stakeholder needs such as behavioral accuracy, legibility, and actionability, and record those results for ISO 42001 transparency evidence. From deployment through retirement, keep explainability alive, launch explanations with the model, monitor usage and drift, run continuous validation loops, reevaluate when context shifts, and archive lessons at retirement. ISO 5338 Clause 6.4 Process knowledge acquisition, data engineering, model engineering, continuous validation all need explainability hooks. Assign owners via RACI tables so nothing falls through the cracks. In healthcare diagnostics, stakeholders include doctors, patients, and regulators. Explainability is both a trust booster and safety control. Walk through inception needs, design choices, and validation with clinicians and operational monitoring. Show how each standard has a deliverable tied to this example. Loan approvals are regulated heavily. Loan officers need reason codes they can trust. Applicants need actionable recourse and fairness proof. And compliance teams monitor discrimination risk. The flow diagram shows how stakeholder needs drive controls and lifecycle work. Document explainability as a mitigating control in ISO 42005. Classify the use case as high explainability need at inception. Implement post-hoc explanations like SHAP reason codes in design and test them with applicants and compliance reviewers during verification. Then monitor appeals and drift in production. Most organizations follow one of 3 patterns. They're either stakeholder driven, lifecycle driven, or impact driven. Pick the starting point that matches your maturity and use ISO 6254 artifacts to keep everything in sync. Use this loop as your operating model. Establish the foundation, conduct impact assessments, plan lifecycle processes, implement explainability, then monitor and improve. Each step references ISO 6254 evidence. Picture a single documentation hub where every artifact is tagged to the clause it serves. For ISO 42001, log your transparency procedures and reference the ISO 6254 methods or evaluation results that justify them. ISO 42005 templates should explicitly cite which stakeholder objectives they all live in. ISO 5338 expects lifecycle proof, so attach explainability tasks and evidence at each stage to the same hub. ISO 6254 artifacts, method taxonomy, quality thresholds, and KPIs sit at the core so auditors can trace back in seconds. When someone asks for proof, you open the hub, filter by clause, and hand them the exact evidence trail. List the 4 pitfalls: treating standards in isolation, skipping stakeholder analysis, misaligning lifecycle timing, and creating documentation silos. The antidote is to integrate from the start and revisit quarterly. Highlight the 5 success factors. Start with stakeholder analysis, organize via lifecycle stages, document explainability inside impact assessments, and integrate everything into the aims, and obviously just keep revisiting your alignment. Reinforce the 5 mappings: stakeholder objectives to stakeholder needs, explainability methods to transparency, stakeholder analysis to impacted parties, and lifecycle activities to stage gates and the integrated framework. Provide a 1-week action plan, review current governance, identify relevant stakeholders, map explainability needs to lifecycle stages, refresh ISO 42001 records, and document explainability inside impact assessments. So thank you for tuning into this quite short and brief video, guys. I hope you got some value and some insights in it. Again, I don't expect this to be exactly perfect, but hopefully you all can take something away from this. So please like and subscribe for more ISO governance breakdowns. If there's any questions or feedback, please drop it in the comments or in my inbox. And remember, standards work best when they work together. Until next time, I'll see you again.